For more than 10 years you have heard words of love from me, he said, looking at his wife across the table. Why are you behaving this way? You assume that I believe everything you tell me, she replied, a strange, distant look in her eyes, and her memory flashed back to last night's episode of The View. Thanks a lot. What's wrong with me? He asked incredulously. I can't believe it. I didn't do anything. There's nothing wrong with you. I mean, you look great for what you are. I just know what they say. I know you did it, or at least thought about it. For your age, you wanted to say, we are the same age, for God's sake. He's tired of her attitude. Is how I look all that matters? Nothing about what's in my heart, in the shower, about what we did together, and who said what? What about Eileen? She accused. What about Eileen? She's my secretary, you know that. What the hell? Sorry, I just don't believe you. I just know you did it, guest of Oprah. She regretted what she said, not understanding why she said it in the first place. She just knew it was true. I'm sure you get a lot of sympathy from your girlfriends discussing this together with the program, he said gloomily. His stomach clenched, dinner rose in his throat, and his heart beat so fast that he thought he was going to die. I don't tell my friends about this, I tell you. Even she herself didn't believe it. And why now? Why wait until now? It's been 10 years. First I cheat, and then I can't please you fast enough. It all started quite simply. It was difficult for her to choose gifts. It was impossible to surprise her with a gift. She didn't like flowers, saying that her father always brought them home when he did something wrong. Decorations. There was no talk about it, but this evening was supposed to be special. Dinner at a restaurant, a pair of diamond earrings, what one would expect on a 10th wedding anniversary, and then a forced line. I'm not in the mood today, and besides, you satisfy me in a different way. It's just not about that. Besides, she said, I know. Having said this, she realized that she had made a mistake. His posture changed with every word she said. His shoulders sagged, his back bent, as if under the weight of a world that had finally overcome him. What an amazing liar, he thought. What an amazing liar she has been all these years. Like his ego, his respect for her was gone. Why she was surprised that he packed his things and left that night, he did not understand. She crushed him with 10 words, and something sacred in his heart finally broke. He put the broken pieces of his life into his grandfather's old army bag along with his clothes, walked down the stairs and out into the cold night. I'm not trying to offend you. Please come back. You've become too sensitive. God, this is so humiliating. We can figure out something that will suit both of us, Oprah says. She ran after him, begging him to stop, to come back, screaming after him. He continued walking, completely destroyed. The thought of getting into the car didn't even cross his mind, not even when he stepped off the sidewalk and was nearly hit by a FedEx truck pulling out of an interchange. The truck's loud horn made little impression on him. He continued walking until he realized that he didn't know where he was. Ahead was Denny's, and behind it was the highway. He walked inside, dragging a heavy bag behind him, its rough fabric scratching the floor. Coffee, please, he said, and the indifferent waitress left the menu on the table. Somewhere deep inside he knew that he needed to eat, even if he was not hungry. His dinner remained untouched. He ordered a Grand Slam and poured syrup over his pancakes. He checked his phone. It was turned off. He pressed the power button, but the phone refused to light up. Half-heartedly, he paid, went to the bathroom, washed his hands and face, and threw his phone in the trash. Without the possibility of charging, it was useless. Besides, he thought, who could he summon? It was his whole life, and this life was dying quickly, terribly, sadly. He slung his bag over his shoulder, crossed the parking lot, and headed down the street toward the highway. It was either very late or very early. In any case, he was left alone for the first time in 10 years. The realization that the last 10 years had been a farce was too painful. His thoughts were interrupted by the loud horn of a truck. Hey, buddy, can I give you a ride? I saw you at Denny's. Where are you going? Nowhere, anywhere. Thank you. I'm going to Indianapolis. Okay, thank you. By the way, my name is Bill. Pete, throw your things back. It's good that there are few cars on the road. They rode in silence until they left Riverside and began to climb the steep grade toward Cajon Pass and Barstow. Well, have you ever driven around the country in a heavy truck? No, to be honest, we didn't have much time to do something like that. For the last 10 years, I've been doing nothing but working in vain, as it turns out. Pete remained silent, concentrating on the movement. The morning traffic was starting to pick up. The trucks moved in a long line, keeping a set distance. Off to the side of the track, yellow and black Union Pacific locomotives pulled a long train up the hill. This used to be Route 66. What? I say it used to be the old Highway 66, that's all. Pete turned the knob of the radio to fill the awkward silence. What did you think? I would say at this moment, when I'm faced with the knowledge that you just don't love me. Did you really think that I would curse you or say something that will hurt you because you just don't love me anymore? Sorry, I just have a lot on my mind. It's because of your wife, right? Yes, how did you know? Your ring and your appearance. Bill looked at his wedding ring. Mixed feelings of anger and sadness took possession of him. He took off the ring, sharply opened the window, and threw it onto the hot asphalt. For the first time since yesterday's dinner, he felt a faint smile appear on his face. What are you transporting? Oh, he spoke, furniture. Some poor guy moves his family from Los Angeles to Indy. I lost my job and decided that it would be better there. My God, I'm sure this will be a huge mistake. Well, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Maybe sometimes it's better to throw away the old and look for something new. I don't know, maybe everything will turn out for the better. Bill looked out the window at the landscape passing by, amazed at how much he had never seen. She said I cheated on her. She said you cheated on her? No, she said I cheated. Damn it. Damn opera put a lot of bullshit into her head. Some writer said that all men cheat, and here we are. I'm sorry, man. It's just crazy. What are you going to do about it other than run away? I don't know. I just needed to be alone. Her disrespect for me, this accusation. Well, to hell with it. Pete looked at Bill. If I were going to Salt Lake, we would stop at Baker for lunch. Sooner or later, everyone stops at Bun Boy. Today, we will stop in Winslow. Have you ever driven a truck? No, I mean, nothing like that. Well, maybe I'll let you try it later. I need to get some sleep. Aren't you going to get into trouble? This is my car. It's not that difficult. Just don't change lanes and keep your speed. And don't hit anything. Don't worry. McDonald's was crowded, but they were served fairly quickly. After lunch, Bill took the wheel and Pete showed him how to change gears. When we get to Needles, wake me up. Just keep the speed at 55 and don't attract attention. Bill used this time to reflect on his life. How could she destroy it so easily? Had she always thought of him this way? Their marriage was a lie, wasn't it? Probably, otherwise why did he leave so easily? Deep down, he must have known that she didn't respect him, accuse him of cheating, just because they said so on Oprah and the new book of the month. Something was missing on his side, on her side. What's the difference now? It's over. Otherwise, what was he doing in the truck, heading east across the desert? Mile after mile, they drove through the Mojave Desert as he kept the truck level and at a constant speed. Most of the other trucks passed them, especially when he slowed down to get a better look at something in the desert. All these years in California, and he never crossed the desert. What kind of life was this? Even his parents didn't go anywhere. The state line and Needles were approaching. He nudged the sleeping Pete. Hey, Pete. Eh? Oh, yes, thank you. Signal, slow down and pull to the side of the road. You'll show me how. Just shift down the gears one by one like I showed you. Once they crossed the border into Arizona, he again wondered what he was doing. This was madness. Bill thought, complete madness. Still, he wondered if this was less crazy than what his life had become. How could she do this to him? She could have just taken a rusty, dull knife and cut it all off. What do you mean he just left? How could he do this? I'm a woman, and I don't believe in weakness, so He just got up and left and didn't call, nothing. So this is what it means to be a woman, she thought. What should I do now? I will come. Just wait, don't do anything. It took almost half an hour before Jeanette knocked on the door. When Joanna finally opened, Jeanette saw that her friend was a complete physical and emotional wreck. They stood on the porch, looking down the road Bill had driven down just a few hours earlier. What did this bastard do? Did he even say anything? This is so unlike him. I thought he worshipped the ground you walk on. All these questions only made Joanna burst into tears again. Jeanette took her friend by the hand and led her back into the house. Yesterday was your anniversary. How could he do this on your anniversary? Everything was wrong. Joanna showed her the diamond earrings. Oh God, they are beautiful. I don't understand what happened. I told him. She started crying again. What did you tell him? Joanna, what did you do? I don't know. Maybe I was tired. I told him that he didn't suit me anymore. Oprah said we should tell men this. I said that I knew that he cheated. It was all in the book. What did you say? Oh God, no wonder he left. Where did he go? I don't know. I called his mobile, but he didn't answer. I called his parents, and they don't know anything either. They didn't even know we had problems. I myself didn't know that we had problems until I discovered. What did you tell them? I just said I needed to talk to him and his phone wasn't working. They stopped in Flagstaff to fill up on diesel and drove further east, spending the night in Winslow. Bill was amazed by the tall trees, wondering how he had lived his whole life in Los Angeles and never seen anything outside the valley, and then saw the vast plains of Meteor Crater. The crushed limestone was lost in the distance, as was his love for his wife. He knew he would cry if he didn't move on to something else. He was going to pay for the room, but Pete said it was included in the price of moving the furniture. I hope you're an early riser. I want to leave here as soon as possible before the road gets too hot. Thank you. What are your plans? I'm going to Indianapolis and then somewhere else, but you can get off anywhere. There's not much between here and there unless you like the Southwest or the Midwest. After everything else seems to have faded. It's probably the weather. Even Indianapolis isn't that great, but it's better than Albuquerque. The next morning, after another quick stop at McDonald's, they headed east on 40th. Bill was starting to get tired of fast food and missed going to restaurants. I prefer Route 70 through Colorado. The mountains there are much more beautiful. Have you thought about what I said yesterday? I have no idea. What would you do if your wife told you that you didn't suit her? Probably never satisfied her. That you cheated on her just because Oprah said so. This is cruel. Wow, sorry guy. I don't know. I'm not sure that running away like you is the right decision. Does she even know where you are? No more than myself, so I guess not. Let him guess. I don't care. He looked out the window at the cows he sensed coming a mile away. There's no chance to fix everything. Well, fix everything. She didn't cheat on you, did she? The devil knows. Who cares? Even if she didn't cheat, she probably still dreamed about it all the time. At least I didn't catch her with someone. All this because of some damn TV show and a stupid man-hating book. The thought of his wife with another man didn't make him angry, only sad, and he wondered how soon she would invite a lover into the house, if she hadn't already done so all these years. Jeanette stayed over at a friend's house and prepared breakfast for the next morning. So, honey, what are you going to do? You didn't cheat on him, right? The pause was so long that Jeanette felt uneasy. Damn, did you cheat? No, but I thought about it, oh God, how I thought about it. She covered her face with both hands, and the tears flowed again. I'm so ashamed. Why? Joanna was surprised by her friend's seeming lack of judgment. Because Because I cheated on Bill, at least in my thoughts. I should never have married him. I just deceived myself and ruined his life as well as mine. It was all in the book. I took it from the library. Everything was written there. It was said that he cheated, and I told him. Are you sure it's not just? Well, you understand. What's the difference now? He left, didn't he? And God knows when, if, he will return. Honey, I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. Now tell me what the real problem with him is. I told you, everything is written in the book. She entered the office. Here, she said, handing the book, your man is cheating to her friend. Oh God, was all Jeanette could say. Opposite the Motel 6 in Amarillo was a huge, colorful sign pointing to Disneyland far to the west. The absurdity of what was happening made Bill laugh. Mickey has long arms. Come on, it's time to go. I want to be near Little Rock by evening. This is my usual route. Are you ready to see America? Of course. Bill put on a new baseball cap and jumped into the cab. For a moment, just a moment, he wondered what his wife was doing, and then realized he didn't care anymore. It's strange, he thought, how quickly love turns into indifference. The opposite of love was not hate, but don't care. The next morning, they crossed the river in Memphis, had lunch in Nashville, and then headed north on Highway 65 toward Indianapolis. They passed the Corvette Museum and the caves, and though he wanted to stop, he knew he would have to wait another time. The two men met up with three others hired to unload the truck. It turned out that there wasn't that much furniture, mostly beds and books. All that was left were the stones that the family collected from all over the country. Stones, marvelous. I think that was his last connection with his past life. Sometimes it's impossible to throw everything away. The overnight flight from Indy to Los Angeles landed just before midnight, and he took a taxi home. Inserting the key into the lock, he quietly opened the door, placed the old bag by the sofa, and went back to sleep. Jeanette woke him up. Bill, what are you? When did you come back? Last night in the morning, I don't know. What are you doing here? I was going to ask you the same question. It is in a terrible state. How could you just leave? She didn't tell you? How could I stay? I still had at least some pride left. Just a little, I'm afraid. I'm back, but still. Why did you come back? Sometimes it's impossible to throw everything away. What time is it? A little after 7. Do you want coffee? Come on, I'll cook it for you. You look terrible. What did she tell you? It was in trust. I was there, remember? What can you tell me that I don't already know? That you cheated on her. You don't suit her, she said. Everything is written in the book. She's sorry. You can't even imagine how sorry she is. Wonderful. So she's sorry she said that. But this does not make her feelings false. I just don't understand. 10 years, well, even 11, and only now she says something. If there was a problem. Why didn't she tell me sooner so we could do something about it? Am I cheating on her? This is crazy. Damn book. What are your plans? Will you stay? I don't know yet, but I need to wash my clothes and look around. See if I still have a job. You're back, Joanne said, entering the kitchen so quietly that he didn't hear her. He flinched, expecting her to either hit him or something else. Where did you go, Bill? I couldn't find a place for myself because of anxiety. Don't lie, Joanne, don't lie. After what you said, I don't understand why you would even worry about me. Let's cool down a little. Jeanette intervened to prevent the situation from escalating. Bill is back. Sit down, Joanne, and have some coffee. Bill's wife sank into the remaining chair and put her head in her hands. She languidly stirred the sugar in her mug and watched the swirls in the cup. Bill. What? Sorry. Yes, neither do I. Yes, he thought, he was sorry too. He regrets that he lost the last 10 years of his life with a woman who appreciates him so little. Perhaps, he thought, she also thought little of him in other ways, and he was just a convenient source of income for her. Why she didn't find someone better during this time is a mystery to him. Or maybe she found him, but he just didn't know. What the hell is in this damn book? Jeanette reached into the refrigerator and pulled out fresh fruit and Danish pastries. Here, she said, placing the plates in the center of the table. Bill took a muffin, satisfying his hunger for the first time since boarding the plane in Indianapolis. Then he ate the second one, this time with cherries. Do you want a divorce? He asked, reaching for the third. What? I don't know. And you? I'm not sure. There's a lot to think about, not just sex. I told you the other day I didn't cheat, but no, you didn't believe me. He stopped chewing. There is a house, money in the bank, cars. This is all. But how? You tell me. I think you told me enough the other day. How could you remain silent all this time and deceive me like that? She looked into the mug and then took the bun. I wasn't trying to deceive you. I mean, you're mostly good in bed, just not all the time. And everywhere you look, TV, magazines, Oprah. Everyone says you can more than half the time, and sometimes you take too long, and always want to kiss me there. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood. And the book says it's because you're cheating. All men cheat. Jeanette felt like she was being peeped through the window, but she knew it was impossible to just get up and walk away from this conversation. Moreover, she thought, what's wrong with half the time? Not every day is the 4th of July. What does too long mean? And about cheating. She had known Bill for many years, and if anyone really loved his wife, it was him. The more she heard, the more she looked at her friend with different eyes. Okay, he said, I need to think. You too. We'll talk this afternoon when I get back from work, if, of course, I still have one. Bill came to work and talked to the secretary. Somehow she'd covered him for the past 5 days by scheduling fictitious appointments on her calendar and talking to clients on the phone. Thank you, Eileen. You are a salvation. Sorry, I just... He closed the office door. I had a hard time with Joanne. I think we'll get a divorce. I don't see any other way out. It's a shame, but I can't continue to live with what I know now. Oh, Bill, I'm so sorry. I'm just glad you're back. Your day is still free thanks to all the meetings I have planned for you. I didn't know when you would return, so I blocked each day separately. If I hadn't heard from you by Wednesday, I was going to call the police. Thank you. I knew I could count on you. More than his wife, he thought. Joanne didn't say anything about calling the police. Did anything else happen? Not really. Everything was pretty quiet. Luckily, nothing serious has come up in the last few days, so you're fine. You know, I got divorced 5 years ago. It's going away, little by little. What? Pain. It's not the same as if she died, although it may seem different to you now. How do you know it's not my fault? Don't talk nonsense. I've known you for almost 4 years. It couldn't be your fault. When you want to talk, you know where to find me. He spent the rest of the morning reading the business section of the Times and thinking about his problem. Financially, he knew he would suffer losses if they divorced. The laws are now unfair to men, although he realized they never had been. It's just that now women have an advantage by acting like lustful men and then killing them in court. No wonder no one gets married anymore. He still didn't know what to do when there was a knock on the door. I made a reservation at Clearman's for lunch. You're giving a treat. The restaurant was a crazy combination of Alaskan Gold Rush decor, waitresses dressed as French maids, and the biggest baked potatoes you've ever seen. Bill loved red cabbage salad and cheese croutons, and that was usually all he ate for lunch. He's seen enough colleagues with heart attacks to avoid regularly eating steak and potatoes. Well, Eileen asked as the waitress wrote down their orders. What are you going to do? And where did you go anyway? He looked at his secretary. It was incredible. I rode with the truck driver and we got to Indianapolis. I saw the country from the cab of the truck and even steered a little. Did you drive? She laughed. What's so funny? You, a corporate lawyer, driving a truck. Are you serious? Yes, it was fantastic, but I wouldn't want to do it every day like Pete. And eating at McDonald's every morning quickly gets boring. Pete, was it the driver? Yes, he gave me a lift. You know, I've never been outside of Los Angeles before. How this happened, I have no idea. I think life got in the way of living. Did you know there's a lot of basalt along the highway in New Mexico? Basalt? Yes, black stone, from volcanoes. Volcanoes. Are there volcanoes in New Mexico? The next thing you'll say is that you saw Elvis. Well, you couldn't. We drove past. There was no time to stop this time. This time. I liked. No, I loved it the journey, not the truck. I would like to go again with someone who would also want to. So you and Joanne. Oh, how can I stay with her after what she told me? Fuck it. Let's better talk about you. I have my own problems, and I've never been a good conversationalist. Then I'll let you buy me dessert. How do you like that? If you are going to get a divorce, you need to think things through. Not legal issues. I can tell you a few things, and you can figure out the rest on your own, although you'll need a predatory lawyer. But emotionally, it will hurt. She cheated on you, right? Don't know. Does it matter now? As I see it, I only have a couple of options. I can divorce her and hope for the best. I can stay married until it becomes unbearable, and then I still get divorced, so this is even worse than the first option, because I will only add extra time to the pain. Or can I stay with her and not worry about, what is it called, an open marriage? This doesn't look like marriage at all. This is just a joke. Then why be married at all? It's good that you don't have children. What happened to you if it's not a secret? I know that you are divorced. I just never wanted to intrude with questions. It's the same thing again. He changed. He found someone younger, newer, I left him immediately. Like in her stupid book. And I didn't even think about forgiveness, right? Are you kidding? Sex is the most intimate thing that can happen between people. This is not just a physical exercise, it is. This is love. Yes, this is love, and I don't have it for her anymore. All this dishonesty over the years, and now it has made me feel unworthy, less than a man. This constant stream of TV garbage has ruined our lives. Maybe she was just trying to avoid hurting you. Then she wouldn't have said anything at all, especially on our 10th anniversary. Or she would find a way to explain to me what she wants. She should have known that I would never cheat on her. She was everything to me. What does she complain about most? Besides my treason, according to her friend Jeanette, I spend too much time. The book says that means I'm selfish. Who even wrote this book? I thought you girls were always complaining about the opposite. Too much time for what? Are you kidding me? Is she complaining about this? I think she's getting bored. I don't know. I don't care. Oh, Bill, I'm so sorry. And I find it hard to believe she's complaining about something like that. It's not something I would. Believe it or not, that's exactly what Jeanette said. Joni still won't admit to anything other than what she said back then. I wish she had told me about this years ago. Maybe we could fix this. As for TV and books, I don't know how to deal with it. I just gave up. So what are you going to do? Don't know. I think I'll file for divorce. I can't live with her anymore. Where is the trust that should exist between husband and wife? Some will say that I'm a weakling, but I don't think so. If I just accept everything she said, then what happens next? Her new lover, who will supposedly satisfy her better than me. And the book, she says that this is normal. They say, if it's possible for me, then it's possible for her too. I didn't do anything like that, and it doesn't matter whether she believes me now or not. I don't know if you were hoping for something different. I'm sorry. He looked down at his coleslaw and took a bite with his fork. Sadly, he put the fork back. He seems to have lost his taste. I'm sorry. Tomorrow it will taste better, and the next day even better. Stop apologizing. I told you that I went through this myself. Besides, I have no idea how to fix what else she wants. It's been too long. She doesn't understand what it's like to make love. So you understand. I think we're going in circles. Are you trying to save my marriage? I don't think you can do it, and I'm not sure that I want it myself. I'm not sure I want it either. She took another bite of the cheese toastie. Listen, let's set up a meeting with my divorce lawyer. She is a real shark. Your wife won't understand what ate her. Fine. You know, this already tastes better. Bill sat at his desk, aiming paper clips at the coffee cup by the door. The box was almost empty, and he only hit 3 times. Terrible, he thought. How can you be so clumsy? If you took the whole box and threw it all, the chances would probably be higher. He knew it was time to face reality. You could no longer run away from your problems. He was thinking about the trip. He didn't know who he was more angry with, his parents or himself. As children, their vacations were limited to a 3-day trip to San Diego or a 4-day trip to San Francisco. Sometimes, usually in September, they traveled north to Solvang. He remembered looking at Carpinteria from the car window as he drove past on his way north. But they never stopped there. When he went to college, all his time was spent studying or working at a grocery store. His parents insisted that he work while studying, and when he got a job at a law office, he had more billable hours than everyone else. No, he thought, there was never time for anything. Bill naively thought that once he became a partner and got married, he could spend time with his wife enjoying life. But for some reason, a few years ago, she stopped showing interest in traveling together. What's happened? No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get her to explain it beyond her constant, "It's in the book." Was their life, he asked himself, a marriage of convenience for her? Why couldn't he understand her? What the hell was in this book? First, he had to answer another question that had been bothering him since he returned from Indianapolis. Bill took the phone. "Hello, Mom? Yes, it's me. Why didn't we ever go on vacation when I was growing up?" He listened. "Yeah, but what about?" He stood up and walked to the corner window, looking for his Dodge. The white Challenger gleamed in its reserved spot. Vanishing Point, he thought, didn't end too well either. He wanted his father to be alive. He could give him the car back. A knock on the door brought him back to reality. He turned around. Yes, what now? He thought. Eileen entered the office. She looked at the paper clips scattered on the floor and frowned. "I made an appointment with you for tomorrow morning at 11. Signing of a merger agreement with Crandell. Luckily, they didn't call while you were away. Thank you. At least there was nothing worthwhile left to do today." He threw another paperclip into the cup. Missed. Bill barely made it to lunch. The day dragged on endlessly, and he felt completely empty. He read the Crandell merger documents 3 times. Everything was in place. The deal really strengthened the new company. Eileen knocked again. "There's some Jeanette Rector here. She wants to talk to you." "Oh, fuck," he groaned. "My wife's best friend. What does she need? Did Joanna send it? Okay, let him come in." "Would you like coffee or something else?" asked Eileen. "No, I think she won't be here for long." He got up and went to the door. "Good morning, Jeanette." "Hello, Bill. Before you say anything, I want you to know that Joanna doesn't know I'm here, and I'd like to keep it that way." "Okay, I think I can understand that. I'll be blunt. What do you want?" A slight blush appeared on her face, betraying slight embarrassment. "You know why I'm here? Can I sit down?" "I think yes. But what can you say to make this all better for me?" Jeanette sat down and fidgeted nervously in her chair. "Do you still love her?" "To put it matter-of-factly, Jeanette, this is a rather difficult question. Whether I love her or not has nothing to do with her behavior. How long have you known me? Almost 11 years, right? Have you ever seen me treat her with anything other than kindness? It's a simple question, Bill. Yes or no. You're just angry because your pride is hurt." "Oh no, it's not just that." "Well, maybe a little, but that's not the main problem. She didn't leave a dent on my car. She still insists that I cheated on her. She's still convinced that I'm no good in bed, right? How do I deal with something like this? On our anniversary, Jeanette. Our anniversary. This is very cruel." "You didn't cheat on her, did you?" she asked. "Of course not." He paused. "And about the other thing, that's a completely separate topic. This could be fixed. We just had to work on it together." Bill tapped his fingers on the table. "Listen, Jeanette, you're a good person, and I don't want to sound harsh, but I'll say it straight. I never cheated on her. Hell, I would never do that. That's how I was raised. and she so easily accuses me just because some idiot wrote a book and went on television with it. This is disrespectful for me and for our marriage vows. It cuts to the core. Why do women think men don't have feelings? How can I know that she... He didn't finish his sentence, watching Jeanette's reaction closely, but didn't see anything new. I'm telling you that she's wrong. What if this is all just an excuse? What if she found? He twirled one of the remaining paper clips in his hands. For a second, I felt like making one last throw into the cup, but it seemed stupid given everything that was happening. This whole story with the bed is something else altogether. She told me that I couldn't keep up with her pace. What nonsense. I thought women always want men to take the time to please them, and they always complain about those who are in too much of a hurry. His voice sounded tired and irritated. I have to admit that I found that strange too, Jeanette replied. I don't know what to tell you about this. She said she read it in some book. But if you still love her, you need to work it out. She was in a terrible state when you left. I had to be with her the whole time. Jeanette, you are a good friend to her, and I respect you for that. But what you are asking of me now hurts me. How could she be in such a nervous state if she attacked me? Am I not the victim here? She did all this to me. What is my fault? The fact that he loved her for 10, 11 years? The fact that he tried to make her happy even in bed? And now I find out that none of that mattered? I don't know, Jeanette answered. I think she didn't expect you to leave. What are you going to do? I don't know either. I feel like I don't know who she really is, even 10 years later. I need to think a lot about her, about me, about us. If nothing else, at least my little trip around the country showed me that there is something more in the world than the four walls of this office and the road home. You know, he did everything he could to show me Memphis and Nashville. It was so cool. He unbent the paperclip and twirled it in his fingers. You see, I blamed myself for the fact that we don't go anywhere anymore. But then I realized that it was she who never wanted to go anywhere. She just wants to sit at home, watch TV, and I have to take her out to dinner whenever she wants. It never even occurred to me before because of the way I was raised. Is this life? I did everything I could except tie her up and force her out of the house. Before that night, it had been almost 2 months since we had gone out to dinner. She kept saying she was too tired or not in the mood. For anything. She began. What? Listen, I'm hurt. On 2 fronts at once. We could handle one, but both. Help me. I don't know what to do. Jeanette looked at him. Obviously, I need to talk to her again. Besides that, I'm just as confused as you are if you're really telling me the truth. After she left, he opened the internet and began looking for family consultants. Dinner was at Dennis's again. It was strange. He could afford to dine anywhere, but the dull interior of Dennis's suited his mood. Bill picked at the turkey stuffing, moving it around the plate and mixing it with the brown gravy. He had no appetite, and heavy food sat in his stomach like a stone. He thought that if he ate even a little more, he would vomit. He threw a 10 on the table and left. Strange, but she was in the kitchen listening to the radio. He thought that she would look for someone else, since she made it clear that she considered him a cheater and was not happy with him in bed. Bill hung his coat in the closet in the hallway and went to the bathroom. Later, he sat in the living room and leafed through the new issue of Model Railroader magazine, but saw almost nothing. This was another disappointment. You either have time, or money, or space, he thought, but never all at once. Maybe a trip north to the Cascade Mountains to watch the trains would be fun. Could they go? As a couple? He shook his head, wondering where he would be in a month. By evening, Bill sadly realized that he needed to do something drastic, if only for the sake of his own self-respect. Sleeping on the sofa was painful for my back and humiliating for my pride. She didn't even care that he wasn't in their bedroom. He began moving his clothes into the front bedroom, the ones that were meant for their child. The child that never came. Children, she said, it's too early to have children. She was still young and wanted to have fun, but it all devolved into her just sitting at home. If she was sitting at home at all. It had never occurred to him that she might be cheating on him, but now the thought was terrifying. How else could this new dissatisfaction arise? Maybe this was all just a ploy to get a divorce. The best defense is attack, but he didn't have the heart to accuse her of cheating. Now he was grateful at least that there was no broken child's heart. How to explain to a small child that his mother is an idiot, or the cheater who ruined their marriage? Can't we talk? I can forgive you, she said, standing in the doorway. He couldn't believe his ears. Is she talking about this again? Bill stood with his back to her, hoping she would just leave the room. He wasn't ready to talk to her, at least not yet. For a lawyer, he was completely helpless in finding words. As much as the trip opened his eyes to the rest of the world, it probably wasn't the smartest decision he's ever made. He should have stayed and looked into the problem right away. He turned around and waited for her to leave. Grabbing a few more things from the closet, he returned to the front room and threw them on the new bed. He looked at some of the shirts she had bought him, shirts he had never worn. He had already thrown a few onto the floor. He especially hated one of them, but kept it because she gave it to him for his birthday. Who wears beige anyway? He seemed dirty and old, just like his marriage. He threw his shirt towards the door. What can I say, Joanna? What can I say? You accused me of the worst thing a husband can do to his wife, and now you expect me to just talk to you, apologize for something I didn't do, and you'll forgive me. But you don't understand. She stood there with tears running down her cheeks. It's all in the book, everything. You are in the book. What the hell, he thought, am I in the book? What are you talking about? Am I in the book? In the 3rd chapter. Successful, 30-year-old, time is at your disposal. This is all? No, there is more. You have an old car that you restored. This is a Dodge Challenger, and it was my father. Who cares? It's just an old car. And how do I know where you eat lunch? You can be anywhere. Listen, Joanna, he began. When he stopped calling her Joe and started calling her Joanna, he didn't know, but the name suited his gloomy mood perfectly. That's all. I restored my dad's car, and I'm eating out. Is that all you think about me? How can you respect me so little? Just because some idiot went on television. Damn it, Joanna. Annoyed, he looked at his wife. Okay, do you want to go with me to the consultant? Something clearly angers you about me. I don't know what it is, and I don't know what to do about it. Where is this book, by the way? Why don't you let me read it? Maybe then I'll understand what you're talking about. Jeanette took it. She came this afternoon and asked for it. Wow, he thought. Jeanette really wants to help. I'll have to thank her somehow. Well, when she finishes, then I'll take a look. Will you come back to our room? He looked at his wife, trying to understand what she really felt. Her face expressed both sadness and anger. Is this possible? Who did he marry? Has he been wrong all these years, or is she just tired of him? This, alarming as it may seem, was quite possible. Maybe, he thought, she really isn't attracted to me anymore. You haven't answered my question yet, he finally said. What? She stood in the doorway with her hands folded, as if she was going to reprimand him. Do you want to go to counseling and try to save this marriage? No matter how much I love you, I don't see a future without it. We can't figure it out ourselves. Joanna, you said that you don't believe me, you don't trust me. You said you believed some stupid book more than anything we had. You said I'm not that good in bed. This is what I really need to explain. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm willing to admit that you might be right. You have to help me figure it out. But no buts, Joanna. Think about it, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bill was lying on the bed reading one of her books, Lemon Meringue Pie and the Murder of Joanne Fluke. He didn't like the woman in the story. She led 2 men by the nose, not intending to marry either of them. In a sense, it was treason. The same thing happened in Janet Ivanovich's books. Their everything was even more frank, when the heroine jumped into bed with either a cop or a bounty hunter. Why do women have this craving for bad boys? And then they complain that they have problems when he leaves. You knew I was a snake when you picked me up, right? Is it really all because of this today? Strong female characters acting like sluts. No wonder his wife is so confused. It didn't help him at all. What protection did this give him? He tried to assemble the model, but made too many mistakes and stopped. That night, for the first time in many years, Bill knelt down and prayed for help. He admitted that he attended church irregularly, and it seemed as if God had abandoned him. The best advice he got was from Pete, the truck driver, and not the priest he ever spoke to. How can a man who has never been in a relationship give advice about marriage? His Bacardi rum-soaked dreams were filled with images of intercity drives and Pete's words, "Sometimes you can't just throw everything away, but sometimes it is necessary." He was completely confused. Even if they stayed together, he understood that everything would never be the same. He tossed and turned on the guest bed, throwing the blanket to the floor. Bill finally fell asleep after 3 in the morning, woke up with a rum headache to the sound of his alarm clock at 6 in the morning, and slowly made his way out of the house at 7. After half-eaten breakfast at the Grand Slam, he was in the office by 9 and turned on the computer. Eileen appeared at the door. "Your meeting asks to reschedule for 10. Thank you. I'll see you in half an hour to discuss the matter again." He opened the file and began studying it again. It seemed simple: two small companies merging to remain competitive in a changing economic climate. Just like a marriage, he thought. He stopped. His face turned red and hot. Damn it. How could she do this? She stopped trusting him because of some damn TV show. How to deal with this? It was almost impossible to comprehend. Why couldn't he figure out what to do? After all, before, in the car, everything seemed so obvious. He was surprised that he was still so angry. He thought he had time to survive this while driving across the country, but apparently he was wrong. The meeting was as successful as expected. Satisfaction, signatures, and champagne are part of the business. After the clients left, he invited Eileen to lunch to celebrate. "Now we not only have this deal," he said, opening the door of the old car, "but also their business for the future." "You deserve it, Bill." "No, don't say that. I understand perfectly well that I could not have done anything without you." "You're kidding, but thank you." "Red Lobster." "Why not?" "How long did it take?" "What?" "Car. How long did the restoration take?" 6 months. It was stripped down to bare metal. Glass had to be ordered in San Jose. "She's beautiful." "Thank you." Amazing, he thought. Joanna didn't even want to drive the car, saying she only wanted her BMW. "Grilled shrimp. With rice, please. And only water," she ordered. "Fish and chips, butter and buns, and a glass of ice for tea." Lunch was spent in casual conversation, sometimes touching on work matters, but more often discussing the latest films and restaurants. It pained him to realize that he had not taken his wife to the movies for a long time. She seemed interested, but when the time came, she changed her mind. It irritated him, as if she was playing with him. Many interesting films passed by. He really wanted to see Cowboys and Aliens, but they missed that movie too. She wanted to watch Fright Night and then changed her mind. Did she go alone? Or was there something else? Maybe she went with someone else. This thought was disturbing. He didn't know anything. The change in her behavior, he wondered, coincided with that book she kept referring to. What was in that damn book? Joanna was watching Entertainment Today, which was showing Battleship, another movie about evil aliens. This one, he found out, wasn't supposed to come out until 2012, so he'd probably have time to watch it. "Do you like films about space monsters?" he asked. "Are you asking me out on a date?" "A new film will be released soon." "Battleship. Yes, I really want to watch it." She looked at him with determination to at least let the paint dry if he wanted it. His wife was a fool for doing what she did, although she thought Bill's reaction was a little over the top. Eileen looked at her life after her divorce. Almost 40 years, 5 years single, quite attractive, but every evening she returns home to her stupid, selfish cat. It seemed to her that the sand in her life clock had almost dried up. "We agreed," she said quickly, so that he wouldn't have time to change his mind. "I'll write it down too." There was a nervous silence. "What about those Dodgers?" he finally asked. "What?" He laughed. She smiled. Perhaps, she thought, everything would be fine. More than 2 hours passed before they returned and closed the office. You know, he joked, if there aren't more customers here, we'll have to close for a day or two a week. There's always something to do, she said, uncertainty. That night he went to the cinema. It was stupid. If monkeys are running around, they need to be killed. How many monkeys can there be? Aren't they on the endangered species list? He threw popcorn at the screen. He again suggested that Joanna see a psychologist, but she still could not give an answer. Listen, he said, if we don't try to do something, there's no hope left. Is this what you want? I can't believe this is what you want. Say something to stop me from banging my head against the wall. Okay, she said quietly. I'll go. Another night in an empty bed. It didn't feel right after all these years. He wanted to drink, but he knew that rum would not solve his problems. He didn't drink. He could easily become an alcoholic like his uncle, and then be useless to himself and to those who could count on him, like Joanna. Or even Eileen, he thought. He took the phone. Mom, I need advice. After talking with his mother, Bill went over his problems and possible scenarios for solving them in his head. Joanna's agreement to see a psychologist at least opened the door to some kind of resolution, good or bad. The next morning, he woke up with a smile and went to the office in a much higher mood. Good morning, Eileen. How was your night? Okay, thanks, she said, still surprised that she went home alone. Whatever you do, don't go to the movie about monkeys. He's terrible. Yes, of course. She shifted from foot to foot. There's a new client at 9:30. Great. We need to somehow attract more customers. Especially now, he thought, especially now. Let's see what we can do. He presented their proposal to the other partners, and the day passed in discussions to which he was already accustomed. Perhaps a conversation with his mother or residual anger at his wife influenced him, but he filed for separation from the partnership. As he approached his office for the last time, he saw her in the hallway with 2 boxes full of their things. Well, where are we going now? She asked. Sorry, I didn't think about it. You don't have to quit. We heard everything. They are idiots. Approaching the elevator, Eileen lowered her head and whispered, I have copies of all your letters and client data. We'll start calling tomorrow. Well then, I guess dinner tonight so we can plan what we're going to do. Of course. Let's get out of here before they come up with anything. He put down his glass. The first thing you need to do is find a real estate agent to rent a suitable office. I'd like to move closer to the South Bay. Century City is too expensive for us now. While we're at it, we'll write a letter to everyone explaining that we're opening a new office if they want to join us. He looked at his ribs. They were as tasty as they looked. Thank you for bringing me here, she said. I've never been to Lucille's before. You know, if we find something nearby, we can come here whenever we want. There are plenty of restaurants here. There are probably a lot of empty offices right now. I've already selected a few brokers to call, she said. Great. You know what? Choose anyone you like, and we'll meet there tomorrow at 10. How do you like it? Great. Are you going to finish that last rib? 2 days later, Bill and Joanna sat in Dr. Donna Hadley's office for their first consultation. Thank you for having us, Doctor. As you can imagine, we have some serious problems to solve, Bill said. He specifically wanted a female consultant. Please, I hope I'm a good fit for you and you both feel comfortable with me and each other. These initial sessions are very important, and if you feel uncomfortable, I will help you find someone else. Dr. Hadley lifted her cup of coffee and took a sip. You will share with me the most personal and intimate details of your life, your marriage. But this is a critical opportunity to reset your relationship. She put the cup on the table and dabbed her lips with a napkin. You have been married for 10 years. This is remarkable considering the number of divorces these days. Let's set some. Well, let's call them ground rules, okay? Respect each other, try not to interrupt, and we will do our best. They both nodded in agreement, although Bill thought Joanna was a little hesitant. It had to be his imagination, he thought. Otherwise, what would be the point? So, let's begin. Trust, love, and commitment are the foundation of a happy, loving, and successful marriage. Joanna, why don't you start? Why are you here today? She didn't hesitate for a second. He's cheating on me. And you know this because it's in the book. Joanna handed the book to Dr. Hadley, who glanced at the cover and placed it on the table. Chapter 3, Joanna said, as if repetition made it true. Okay, let's start with this, since this seems to be the biggest problem you're facing. When did you discover this? Bill felt his heart beat faster. He was curious to hear what his wife had to say, but hearing it so directly was unsettling, almost as if he was actually cheating. One day, about 3 years ago, I was watching The View, that show on TV, and there was an author who had just written a book about how to tell if your husband is cheating on you. Joanna looked at Bill, her face beginning to turn red with anger. I saw Bill on every page of the third chapter, and she began to take notes, comparing his behavior with what was written in the book. While listening to her, Bill squeezed the fabric of his trousers so hard that it hurt. He stopped when he saw the doctor watching him. "Well, let's figure this out, okay?" asked the doctor. Bill found it interesting that she didn't ask him if it was true. He had sworn his innocence over the phone, and perhaps she had accepted it, he thought. After all, he was the one who insisted on consultation. Yeah, thanks," Joanna said. She gave Bill a furious look, and he turned away so as not to meet her gaze. The book says that if a husband is often absent or works late, then he is cheating. Since he bought this car, he has been going to car shows all the time. Your husband is a lawyer. Don't you think it's reasonable that he sometimes stays late at work? Sometimes, of course, but he stays late maybe once or twice a week, and I don't see him until 7 or so. Until 7 o'clock. In the evening. Are you waiting for him to have dinner? No, I leave dinner in the refrigerator, and he can warm it up. Do you sit with him while he eats? Oh no, entertainment tonight starts at this time. I see, Hadley said, writing something down on her notepad. So when he comes home late, as you say, he has dinner alone in the kitchen. Well, yes, of course. I'm in the living room, watching TV. Did you ever go with him to those car shows you mentioned? Not after the first one. There are only old cars and endless walking in circles. People need to grow up. It's just a bunch of old cars, that's all. Hadley made a few more notes, struggling to contain the displeased expression on her face, although she tried to remain calm. So, you only visited once? Yes. It was boring. Fine. What else did you learn from the book? His behavior showed that he was unfaithful, Joanna said sharply. How? He was too nice, and the book says that means he feels guilty for what he does. He was trying to hide what he was doing, trying to deceive me. Hadley put down her notepad and took another sip of her coffee. She knew it would be a long morning. Luckily, after talking to Bill on the phone, she had scheduled 3 hours, just in case. What exactly did he do? You say he was too kind. He wanted to go to restaurants often, and bought me a diamond bracelet for no reason. It wasn't Valentine's Day or my birthday. Continue, please. He bought new suits and started going to sport clips for haircuts. And when did this happen? The doctor glanced at Bill. Right after he was made a partner. What was wrong with his old suits? Why did he need to change his appearance? And then he started running. When he wasn't working on the car. Did he do it alone? I didn't want to run. We could just go to the mall. Okay, let's take a short break. Do you want cookies? Dr. Hadley asked. Bill looked grateful. He was hungry, but he didn't know how to say it without looking stupid. Yes, thank you. He needed a sugar rush. Great, the doctor said, getting up and leaving the office. This, she thought, would be a very difficult case. If he really doesn't cheat, then he has every reason to do so. So, let's continue. Mrs. Hickett, did you say? He's been having sex for too long. Yes, your husband mentioned it. Why don't we leave this question for later? Thought the doctor. If, of course, this happens later. Fine. Did he change anything, for example, his email password, or became more concerned about confidentiality? He has an office computer. I don't know what he's doing there. He can do anything. And he talks about his secretary from time to time. What do you say to this? I don't know what's going on in his office. And now he says that he left the partnership and is going to open his own business. Yes, I know what that means. He would be able to spend more time with Eileen without anyone disturbing him. Dr. Hadley looked at her notes. There were no clear answers in Joanna's words. If she weren't so sure of Bill's innocence, she might also doubt some of his actions. But she knew her task was to moderate their conversation, hoping for a peaceful and honest resolution to the conflict. Well, Joanna, you've certainly made clear your concerns about his behavior. Let's take another break. I think we need him. She looked at Bill, trying to understand what he was thinking. Well, she thought, we'll soon find out. Okay, Dr. Hadley said. Now let's listen to Bill regarding your suspicions. Bill, where do you want to start? To be honest, I already forgot what the first thing she mentioned was. Dr. Hadley looked at her notes. It was about how much time you spend with your car, going to car shows and things like that. My car? It was my father's car. That's why I have it. I asked her to come with me again and again. She agreed only the first time and complained all the time. Okay, let's leave the topic of the car for now. Joanna is worried that you might be doing something else. Instead of car shows, Bill tried to contain his irritation. How to prove a negative? I didn't do anything. She can come with me any time if she wants. I have nothing to hide. Joanna looked at him. Yes, you said that, but what about everything else? Work late? Of course, I am sometimes late. This is the specifics of the job. If I were a doctor, would you say the same thing if the operation was delayed? Sometimes contract negotiations take longer than expected. Look what we're doing right now. This could go on forever if we keep arguing about it. How is this different? I don't argue. You don't even know what my arguments are, Joanna almost screamed. Stop. Let's calm down a little, Hadley intervened. Joanna, we agreed to respect each other. Please don't shout. It doesn't lead to anything. Let's take another break. After a pause, Hadley turned to Joanna. Joanna, you said that when he comes late for dinner, you leave food in the refrigerator, but don't eat with him. Is it so important to watch TV instead of having dinner with him? He knows I love this show. He could bring food into the living room. Bill, what do you say to this? Could you eat in the living room? I suppose it could. It didn't even occur to me. For me, dinner is an opportunity to relax, talk with my wife and her show. She doesn't like it when I talk while it's on. But I can't help but comment. These people on the show mean nothing at all. They simply help sell products. Why should we care about some girl who behaves immorally? This is trash. He shifted in place and reached for a cookie. Oatmeal and raisins. He chewed slowly, using the time to collect his thoughts. Okay, maybe I could eat in the living room and be quiet. But seriously, what does this even have to do with the issue of treason? Joanna looked unhappy. It's not about one thing, she said, but about everything together. I told you, you are the third chapter. Are you ready to accept that I didn't deceive you? I told you it is impossible to prove the absence of something. I can't prove that I didn't cheat. How can I do this? Can you prove that I cheated? No, you know the answer. He says no. He took another cookie and took an irritated bite, crumbs falling onto the floor. I don't know, she said. Can you stop eating cookies? This is important. He stubbornly took another one. Dr. Hadley cleared his throat, getting their attention. This is very different from my usual consultations. Mostly, someone has actually cheated, and I try to help them get over it. Sometimes couples stay together, sometimes they don't. But here everything is different. Bill says he didn't cheat, but you claim he did based on this book. Joan, you will have to decide whether you believe your husband of 10 years or what you read in this book. Until you make a decision, we are at an impasse and cannot even begin to address your other problem. Hadley stood up. Let's wrap this up and meet again on Friday. Think about what was said today, and we will talk then. Joan left. Bill stayed to thank the doctor for his help. I don't know if this will help, doctor. I'm not at all sure. She doesn't believe me and won't believe me no matter what I say or do. I know her. If she has gotten something into her head, it is almost impossible to convince her. Maybe this idea wasn't such a good idea. Let's talk again on Friday. At least you can say you did everything you could to save the marriage. Okay, see you Friday. That night, he read a few more pages of the detective story until he threw the book across the bed in anger. What to do? He wondered. What to do? He went into the office, took a magazine about trains, opened it, and found what he was looking for. Then I went online to the specified site. When he finished, it was already after 11 in the evening, and he finally went to bed. Eileen put the documents on the table. This is an office rental agreement for a year. This is a furniture rental agreement, and this one is for connecting a telephone and DSL for the internet. I think that's it unless you want to add something. Bill looked at Eileen. No, it seems everything has been taken into account. When will all this be ready? By Friday. I know you'll be busy, but don't worry, I'll get everything sorted out. Wonderful. What do you want for dessert? They say the blueberry sour cream pie is fantastic. Joan took one last look in the wall mirror, ran a hand through her dark hair, and walked out to her blue Camry. Soon she'll be driving down Hawthorne Boulevard to the Torrance Marriott and Philip. Her 3-year romance filled her early days with a sense of adventure. Pulling into the parking lot, she smiled. With her husband in the office in Century City, she was free to explore parts of herself she had not known about until she watched a program one morning about married women and their lovers. At first, she couldn't believe that someone would be so open about it, but she soon ran into her old boyfriend at the mall. At first, they just met at Cinnabon for coffee and talking about college friends. Then it turned into lunch a couple times a week. One day, lunch at the Marriott turned into room service and more. Then, that first time, Philip put his arm around her waist, pulling her tightly to him. They danced on the spot to music that was not there. Joan hardly noticed at what moment all movement stopped. Their bodies collided, her chest pressing hard against his. The world stopped when their lips met in a kiss filled with lust and passion. Joan's lips parted in a soft gasp, allowing his tongue to invade, desperately seeking permission to continue. She trembled under his touch, knowing there was no turning back, and wrapped her arms around his neck tighter, returning the kiss with no less passion. He picked her up and carried her to the bed. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, already taking off her clothes. She stopped him by pressing his hand to his lips. "Philip, you talk too much. Make me feel." Philip kissed her fingers tenderly. She saw hunger in his eyes, but also doubt. "When I asked you." "You don't want to make love to me," she whispered, running her fingers over his already bare chest. "Oh God, I want to, but I don't want you to regret it later. What about your husband?" He couldn't mention Bill by name. She silenced him with another kiss. She couldn't imagine that he would be the one to hesitate. Philip resisted for only a moment, then, with a low groan, responded to her hug with the same greed. The weight of his body pressed her against the sheets, and she felt the heat pulsating between them. "I took off the ring. I want to belong to you. Only to you." Philip's lips slid down to feel her neck. Her hands rested on his shoulders as she arched her back, barely holding back a quiet moan of pleasure as his lips found the curve of her breasts. Kiss. It was much more than just a kiss. The intimate feeling of his lips on her chest made her heat up, flare up, and almost lose consciousness. In that crazy moment, she felt a strange desire to leave Bill and stay with Philip forever. This kiss sealed the strange alliance they had formed. The longer her affair went on, the less respect she had for Bill. If he were a real man, she thought, he would have discovered her betrayal long ago. Bill left Marie Callender's and went to Bank of America. He withdrew money from all the accounts and, after receiving a tax penalty from his pension fund, transferred most of the money to a cashier's check, leaving $30,000 for a new emergency account. He then canceled the credit card for their shared home. After that, he drove to Chase, opened an account for the remaining $30,000, and deposited another check in a new safe deposit box. Even if they don't divorce because of this issue, he has lost all trust in his wife. It's better to just say goodbye and move on. Sitting in the car, he cried about what could have been. She was everything to him, and he couldn't understand how she could be so easily influenced by a TV show and a couple of books. Finally, wiping away his tears, he turned on the radio and just sat there. It started to rain. Crap, he cursed, reaching to roll up the passenger side window. It's time to buy a normal car, he realized. The Dodge was a beautiful car, but driving around in a $250,000 car no longer seemed reasonable. He started the engine, listening to the roar of the Hemi. Damn her, he thought. None of this would have happened if she hadn't watched that stupid daytime TV. Driving north on Hawthorne Boulevard, he soon turned onto Rosecrans, turned toward the beach, and eventually ended up at a Chevrolet dealership on Sepulveda. An hour later, after turning down several offers to buy the Challenger, he ordered a dark red Malibu and arranged for delivery the following Monday. It seemed to him that he was closing one chapter of his life and opening a new one in which his wife would no longer be there. While Bill was completing the purchase of a new car, his unfaithful wife was again with her lover at the Torrance Hotel. Oh, Jesus, Joan, do it again. Philip squirmed on the bed, his hands covering his eyes. Oh, damn, this is amazing. The room was quiet. Only his rapid breathing could be heard. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. I can't believe your husband is so stupid. Accusing him of treason is a classic. I know. I almost feel guilty. When I'm done with him, he'll eat out of my hand and we can spend more time together. He made it clear that he did not want to get a divorce. Maybe I should go to Friday's meeting. He never asked to see the book. Of course he asked, but I said that a friend had it, and I would say that she accidentally lost it. You know, there is no book. For a lawyer, of course, he is completely. Although I think I was mistaken in telling him that he is bad in bed. I hope I didn't go too far. God, I hope not, Philip said, to attack a man's ability to give pleasure. That afternoon, while Eileen continued to call former clients explaining what had happened, Bill returned home dejectedly. Upon entering, he called his wife, but there was no answer. Walking into his new bedroom, he knelt down and tried to find a pair of slippers under the bed that he had thrown there in the morning. Gotcha, he muttered, pulling them out. He looked at the slippers worn out, but still comfortable. So, he thought, was our family the same? Comfortable, but has long lost its shine. In the kitchen, he took out a can of Kerr's beer and put it on the table. Then he looked at her for a long time in confusion. Where is this from? He never bought beer and hardly drank. What's happening? Bill continued to look at the can until drops of condensation began to drip from it. Standing up, he opened the refrigerator again and looked inside. There were 2 more identical cans on the shelf. He took them all out, went to the sink, and, opening one by one, poured the cold, foaming contents down the drain. He threw the empty cans into the trash without even bothering to recycle them. It seemed to him that it would be more correct to simply throw them away like everything else. Later that afternoon, Joan finally returned home. She placed her purse and keys next to the door, walked into the kitchen and stopped, looking into the trash can. Bill thought she would say something, but after hesitating, she simply walked further into the bedroom. Bill went into his bedroom, took off his slippers, and lay down on the bed. He stared at the ceiling for a long time, thinking about what had happened to his life. He had already cried all his tears and was not going to do it anymore. A few hours later, he went to the kitchen and made himself a turkey sandwich. Thanks to Oscar Mayer, every day could be Friday's Thanksgiving dinner if he wanted it to be. He settled into the living room with a sandwich and turned on the TV to watch Family Guy. He adored Stewie. His murderous hatred of his mother now more than ever coincided with his attitude towards Joan. When the episode ended, he checked the TV program, but didn't find anything interesting except a rerun of House, so he decided to go to bed. He spent another hour trying to sleep, and then he picked up his Railroad magazine and looked at the pictures again. There were successful issues with a lot of interesting materials, and there were, as they used to say, empty shelves. This month turned out to be one of those. The magazine fell to the floor. The next morning, he left a note reminding Joanne of her Friday session with a marriage counselor and left. Bill walked into the Caro Cafe and headed to the far corner table. "Good morning, Eileen. How are you today?" he asked his secretary. Over the last few days, she had been dressing much smarter, and he knew why. Despite liking her, he was not in the mood, although, he thought, it will be better when we have our own office. As much fun as working in restaurants is, it gets tiring, she replied. Last night, she bought a new outfit just for him and hoped he would notice. She wanted him to look at her. That way. "I bought a new car, and I need a ride on Monday to pick it up," he said, raising his coffee cup to his lips. "She looks really good," he admitted. "Is this a new dress?" "It must be." "Of course, Bill. From your home?" Perhaps she hoped they would leave a little later. Maybe he will leave his wife after all, and she can console him. "Yes, please. How many more calls do you need to make? I will be glad when this uncertainty ends. Especially," he thought, "in my life. 7 more. Great. When you're done, why don't you take the rest of the week on your own, and I'll see you on Monday morning. Let's say by 9. "Wow, thank you." "Eileen?" "Yes, very beautiful dress. You look great today." "Thank you," she replied. Even though she was waiting for his reaction, she still blushed at the compliment, but she wanted more. Maybe this is yet to come. That afternoon, he called a garage door installer. "Yes, I want to completely close the room so that no one but me can open the door. Can you send someone today?" He listened to the answer. "I'll pay more to have it done tonight." "Are you yourself? Great. See you around 6. He pressed the end call button and flipped through the address book on his phone. "This is it," he thought. "Papa John's. We will accept your order." "Yes, 1 medium pizza with pepperoni and extra cheese." "Your name?" "Hike." Bill dictated his phone number. "Yes, sir. It will be ready in 30 minutes. Fitz?" "Yes, but wait a minute. Write down this card number." He had just finished the pizza when the garage door installer arrived. Bill walked out the back door to meet a man who was looking at the Challenger. "Cool car," he said. "Thank you. I wish this place could be locked so that no one but me could open the door. It's not difficult. A couple of locks here and there, and then you pull this cord, and the automatic mechanism will disconnect from the door. You could do it yourself. I have too much on my mind, and I wanted it done right. Thank you for coming." "Okay, it's your business. It's not difficult for me. It will take a little time." Thursday evening turned out to be another lost night. Joanne was sitting in the living room watching Entertainment Tonight. Bill came in and turned off the TV. He wanted to give her every chance she deserved as his wife. "Joanne, can't we talk? Do you really think I cheated on you?" "I don't want to talk about it," she said carefully, choosing her words. She tried not to mention what she said about his abilities in bed. "I know what I know. Why don't you just come clean and we'll go from there?" The more she talked, the more she realized that she had made a huge mistake by saying something like that. Her well-thought-out plan didn't seem so well thought out anymore. Bill was so angry that he threw the remote control on the floor and crushed it under his heel. "Admit it, Joanne," he said, and left the living room. Friday afternoon dragged on forever. The family counselor looked at Bill. "Even if you can convince your wife of your innocence, your marriage will never be the same again. Forgiving her will be difficult, if not impossible. I'm also not sure that she will sincerely accept your innocence and not deep down continue to distrust you." Bill felt extremely uncomfortable. He thought the counselor would give him advice on how to save his marriage. Instead, she seemed to be trying to say it was over. "You know," the consultant continued, "if this was really treason, everything would be simpler. You could show remorse and make an effort to show that you still love her. But in this situation," she flipped through a few pages in the folder. "Well, Mr. Hick, it looks like your wife didn't come. Are you going to continue?" "No, that makes no sense. I came today just to emphasize once again that I have never cheated. You know, I don't care anymore. Thanks for your time." He handed her his new business card. "You can contact me at this number. You have my mobile. Thank you. As he drove down the street, Joanne literally flew into the consultant's office. Sorry, I'm late. He left, right. Call him, please. Sit down, Mrs. Hick. We need to talk. Bill sat in his Challenger and called his divorce lawyer. Yes, submit your documents. On Monday? Okay, that's fine. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. I understand, but what can I do? Goodbye. As much as he hated to admit it, his soul felt much lighter. The weight on his heart seemed to disappear. The headache went away, and he felt better. It was strange. 10 years of his life were coming to an end, and he felt good. When did I stop loving her? He asked himself. Have I stopped loving her? No, he admitted. I still love her, but I can't continue living like this. Bill returned home to an empty house, and he left. His phone rang. Hello, Bill. This is Jeanette. Listen, I need to talk to you. Could you meet me at the Outback in Del Amo? Say, in an hour. Thank you. She saw him approaching across the parking lot and went out to meet him. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. They quickly took a table, and after ordering, he asked how she was doing. To say, okay, is to lie. The situation with your wife haunts me. I can't believe Joanne would do this. Has anything changed? She didn't show up for the consultation this afternoon, and when I got home, she wasn't there. I don't see how this can be saved, and frankly, I don't care anymore. I'm very sorry to hear this. I can't believe she's acting like this. What are you going to do? The salads arrived, and he paused before answering. I did everything they usually do. Transferred the money so she wouldn't have time to do it first, and blocked the credit cards. Everything will be in place when the divorce is finalized. So you are definitely going to get a divorce. He looked at her, and the expression on his face was the answer. Perhaps it was a stupid question, but what next? We'll have to sell the house or buy out her share. Most likely I will sell. I don't want to walk through rooms where she left traces. It's a shame, of course. I like this house. You could just buy new furniture and repaint everything. Their steaks arrived. He looked at her. It's a thought. Thanks for the idea. What did you want to show me, Jeanette? You didn't call me here to discuss repainting my house. I have something for you. I wanted to make sure I wasn't wrong before I said anything. He stopped cutting his steak. I was hoping you'd tell me what's really going on with Joanne. I can't believe she's acting like this because of some book and TV show. She leaned closer. When we first spoke in your office, I said to myself, is she really? And then I thought, no, this cannot be so, but I needed to be sure, so I followed her. Bill knew what Jeanette was going to say, but he didn't want to entertain the thought, even though deep down it seemed logical. Could Joanne really be that stupid? If that's true, then why is she doing it now, like this? I don't know, Jeanette said. Maybe she wants to get out of the marriage, and this is the only way she could think of to find a reason to blame you, real or not. He considered her words. This idea came to him for the first time. It's worth thinking about, that's for sure. Why didn't I think of this myself? Silly for a lawyer, isn't it? No, you're too close to all this, and you were just trying to save your marriage. Look, I used the phone. She handed him a cell phone, on the screen of which was a photograph of his wife hugging another man. I'm sorry it ended like this. You are a good person. No, I'm just an ordinary person who tried to save my marriage. That's all, he said, continuing to look at the glowing image. So, Jeanette continued, I decided to wait and follow him if I could. I took a chance and stalked them near the parking lot to see where they would go. I almost lost track of him a few times, but luckily the traffic was thick enough for me to catch up again. He lives in Manhattan Beach, and I found his address on the internet. His name is Philippe Delacroix, and he is married. I don't know if he has children. Thank you. Now at least I know for sure. Why did you do all this for me? To be honest, the possibility of your betrayal was on my mind. I'm glad that turned out to be untrue. Like I said, you're a good person. But then she said you were wasting too much time, and that was completely illogical. What woman would complain about that? This is just crazy. So I decided to find out everything for myself. Thank you so much. You acted nobly. Do you want dessert? He grinned. I'll treat you. We need to make at least one woman happy today. No, I need to watch my figure, she answered with a smile. Look, Bill, if you need anything, just call. Anything, anytime. If not now, then later. Thanks for dinner. I'm really sorry. Bill heard a noise at the front door and became alert. Joanne must have returned home, he thought, and went out into the living room. Joanne spoke without even closing the door. What's wrong with you? You can't say anything now. I'm leaving. She needed to regain control of the situation before she completely lost it. He was furious. If you leave, don't expect that you will have somewhere to return. I'm serious. This has already gone too far. What will your favorite opera say about this? Joanne froze, one hand on the door handle, the other clutching her purse. He saw the hesitation in her eyes, like a cornered animal. Do you want to save this marriage? He asked. I'm doing everything to make this happen. He thought furiously, I'll give you one more chance to confess. You need this, so do it, she said guiltily, but stubbornly, trying not to give in to the war she had started. Joanne, come on, please, before we do something irreparable. Did you cheat on me? What if you changed? You too. I didn't do anything. Don't you understand? I'm innocent and you're acting like, damn, I don't care. The weekend passed in complete silence. Bill spent the morning polishing the old car and then headed north along the Pacific Coast Highway toward Malibu. Several times he imagined the ending of Vanishing Point and wondered if it would be a suitable ending for his wife. He smiled, imagining Joanne tied to a bulldozer while he drove the car at 100 miles an hour. He spent Sunday packing his model trains and magazines in preparation for the eventual move. He looked at the 5 boxes. Not too much, he thought. This needs to change, no matter what happens to his marriage. He took them to the garage. On Monday morning, Eileen took him to the Chevrolet dealership. Oh, this car is just a miracle. Take me for a ride. He looked at his secretary. The joyful expression on her face made him smile. Suddenly, he really wanted to take her for a ride not just in the car, but in bed. He shook his head, driving away the last thought. If he does this now, he will be no different from his treacherous wife. He looked at the phone. 10:15, should have been. His phone rang. Hello? Did you do it? Fine. How did she react? And well, not everyone gets what they want, right? Thank you. He turned to Eileen with a smile. Let's go for a ride. Have you ever been to Solvang? In Solvang? Is it true? I love Solvang. Great. Let's park your car on my street so it's safe, and then we'll go. Soon they were driving north along the Pacific Coast Highway, and by lunchtime they were having lunch at the Red Viking restaurant in this Danish town. Do you come here often? She asked. We went before. But everything changed, I think, when she started a relationship with Philip and stopped wanting to go somewhere with me. Now I think she took advantage of my absence to spend time with him. What do you think I should do? I would like to punch him in the nose and hit him, you know where. It will only land you in jail, and you will lose your law practice. Let's just send his wife the photo Jeanette showed me, along with a little note. I'm sure she will find it useful. You're right. Why should we suffer more than we already have? Let's enjoy the moment. I haven't been here for probably 4 years. There is one bakery here that I loved. With a windmill? Yes, that's it. He bought Eileen a small glass unicorn from the gift shop. This is for you, he said, almost embarrassed. Am I falling in love with her? He thought, or is it just because she is nearby? Eileen? He asked as they walked towards the bakery. Yes. She squeezed his hand and looked at him. What are you thinking about, Bill? I don't want to ruin our friendship by doing something stupid. We both know why we are here today. In response, she rose on her tiptoes and kissed him. Bill, I'm your friend. If something happens, it will happen. If not, we will remain friends. Fine. Okay, I just don't want to offend you. I've been hurt enough, and I know how much it hurts. I'm a grown girl, Bill. I know. Buy me a cookie. I'll buy you a whole bucket. The drive back to Los Angeles was quiet, and he wondered what would happen when he finally got home. "What? Do you want a divorce? How can you?" Joanna screamed. "How can I do this to you? What about what you did to my life?" Bill couldn't believe her attitude. If she had repented, something might still have been possible to fix, but he was tired of living with her. He knew there was no future here. "Oh, don't be an idiot. Of course you." Joanna fell silent, realizing her mistake. No amount of programming like Oprah or The View prepared her for the real consequences of her disastrous plan. If she had just remained silent, her affair could have lasted as long as she wanted. Events moved too quickly, word for word, and there was no longer a path to a peaceful separation. "Here's my lawyer's business card. Make an appointment with someone. Take a raincoat." "Raincoat? For what?" "It will be a bloodbath. I hope you will be very happy with some other poor soul someday. Goodbye, Joanna." He went into the front bedroom and pushed the dresser against the door. Let him try to get through this, he thought. On Tuesday morning, he loaded his 5 boxes into the Malibu and headed to his new office. 3 walkers, and they were all securely locked in the office closet. "Good morning, boss. How do you like it?" "I think she's still seething with anger." "I meant the office, but that's also interesting. So far, about half of your clients have transferred their business to us. I'm waiting to see what happens with the others, but I'm guessing we'll have advance checks by the end of the week. This is just wonderful. I don't know what I would do without you. Do you still feel married?" She walked up to him and lightly touched his hand. "No, it's strange, isn't it? 10 years ended like this. She destroyed your marriage a long time ago and without your permission. It was already over, you just didn't know it." She stepped closer, violating his personal space. He felt her breath on his face. She felt his excitement. Her hand reached down. He was embarrassed. "Eileen." "Quiet," she whispered. "Just let it happen." "I can't, Eileen. Not now. I think I want you. I know I do, but not now." Disappointment was written all over her face. She hugged him tightly, kissed him lightly, and then walked away. "You were going to show me your trains, weren't you?" Just before 11, Eileen and Bill were surprised by Jeanette. "Good morning, Bill." "Eileen." "What happened, Bill?" "This morning she was given the documents, and I took out my things. I took the models first. That's about $10,000 too easy to lose. The car is locked like Fort Knox. For now, that's all I can do. I stopped by to invite you to lunch. If you're busy, I can make an appointment, I think." Bill glanced at Eileen, who was still blushing from their hug. It's okay, Bill. Eileen can go too if she wants. I promise I won't bite." "I'll close everything," Eileen said and left the room. "What really brings you here, Jeanette?" he asked. Jeanette looked towards the door where Eileen stood. "I just wanted to say that I'm nearby, if anything happens. You've already said this before. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate everything you've done for me, especially with that photo and everything. You helped me finally make a decision, but now it's too early. I just wanted you to know, that's all," she said, feeling stupid. "Thank you. Just because I'm a little shy now doesn't mean I'll always be that way. I promise when the time comes, I will call you. Do you still want to have lunch?" "Yes, very much." "Would Eileen mind?" "She's in the same situation as you right now." "I never thought I would be so popular with you two. I admit I have an ulterior motive. I want to check if you really need that much time. I could use it." Eileen cleared her throat and entered the room. "Everything is ready, Bill. Where will we go?" "And Antonio's on the pier. What do you think of the idea?" "Great. It's certainly better than Caro's." After an unexpectedly pleasant lunch, both women helped him move his clothes from his home to his office. The last thing he took down from the wall in his office was his college and law school diplomas. "You know, Bill, this doesn't look like a professional workspace at all," Eileen said, looking at his clothes folded against the office wall. "They need to be stored somewhere until I find a new home or something. Listen, I have a 2-room apartment. Stay with me. Your clothes will look like they survived a train wreck by the time you start wearing them. You can't sleep here. Our clients now expect no less from us, and even more than before, now that we have become independent. Well, since you asked the question like that, how can I say no? Dinner that night was simple, just spaghetti with Prego sauce and some frozen Magnum bars. When he arrived, he noticed how modestly Eileen lived and realized that whatever the old firm was paying her, it was clearly not enough. Eileen, I was thinking. Yes, she answered, smiling. I think of you as a partner rather than a secretary, personal assistant, or whatever you want to call it. I know you took a huge risk by leaving with me. I'd like to see how much we make, but I'm definitely going to give you a big raise. All his good intentions disappeared that night when she entered the bedroom. He carefully laid her down on the bed, their hearts beating in unison, their lips merging in kisses, and their hands intertwined, as if not wanting to let go of each other. Eileen was trembling all over with excitement, feeling his presence nearby. He touched her gently, trying to be as gentle as possible. She forced herself to relax, and her body responded, accepting his closeness. Bill moved slowly and carefully, giving her soft kisses each time. With each touch, they grew closer, their bodies moving in harmony until they merged into a single rhythm. At that moment, the whole world around disappeared, only the two of them remained. Eileen felt a sense of closeness and unity growing within her, as if every cell of her body was filled with warmth and joy. She closed her eyes, feeling how their shared energy filled her soul, leaving only warmth and love. He leaned on his arms, burying his face in her neck, and she felt his rapid heartbeat gradually slow down. Eileen continued to hug him, enjoying the intimacy of their bodies even as they began to cool down. She laughed. What did I do? He asked in surprise, wondering how she could laugh at such a moment. Whether Jeanette was serious or not, you really are holding on for a long time. God bless. She moved away and then lay back on top of him. Her finger touched his nose. Thank you. Please, but for what? For everything. I was afraid that Jeanette had spoiled you forever. I'm not 15, Bill. As long as you have time for me, I will be happy. Perhaps this is even more than I expected. I don't know, but like I said, I'll take whatever you're willing to give. I realize I'm almost 40, but I've been thinking about you since the moment we met, and as crazy as it sounds, I waited. God, I waited so long, and you never did anything. That's why I know I can trust you to not break my heart with promises you have no intention of keeping. Does this make sense? Yes. Yes. I promise that I will never knowingly do anything to upset you. They fell asleep that night in each other's arms, and the next morning was a pleasant repeat of the night. Jeanette is here, and we might have a little problem. Eh? Jeanette will expect some kind of thank you from you. Is it true? And I'm just saying that she will wait for it, and don't forget about it, that's all. Jeanette entered the room. Hello, Bill. For lunch? Bill looked at Eileen, who nodded. Yes, of course, I think it's possible. Do we have anything planned for today, Eileen? I'm just waiting for mail and calls from our old clients. Go have a good time. If you're late, I'll close the office. What was that? He asked himself. Yes, okay. Women, where would you like to go, Jeanette? I don't care, Bill, anywhere. He put down his taco. At first glance, Chevy's Mexican seemed like a good choice, but the noise was so loud that they should have left immediately after arriving. Well, how are you? He asked. Fine. Won't you ask me about Joanne? No. Well, I'll tell you anyway. It turns out that a certain photograph ended up with a certain wife, who is now divorcing a certain Philippe, who, in turn, abandoned a certain Joanne. It's amazing how things worked out, isn't it? As interesting as it is. And it is really interesting. So what? Yes, nothing. Just thought you might be curious to know. Thank you. You are a good friend, Jeanette. I talked to Eileen. Is it true? He thought. What now? He was about to say something, but his phone rang. Eileen, and you agree? You're kidding. Not at all. After all, that's what a good personal assistant does, I guess. Well, Your Honor, that's all that can be said in favor of my client. We offer a lump sum payment instead of alimony. He has no desire to maintain contact with this woman. I'm sure you understand. She can keep the house. He wants nothing to do with it. Miss Krotow, do you see any chance of reconciliation between your client and his wife? I can prescribe it, you know. Your Honor, you can prescribe as much as you like, but Mr. Ickett is categorical. He doesn't want to stay married to her anymore. Mr. Kelly, what do you want to add on behalf of your client? Your Honor, Mrs. Ickett firmly believes that their differences can be resolved if given enough time and asks the court to grant this request. I'll think about it in my chambers. Let's break for lunch and meet here again at 2 o'clock sharp. Both restaurants near the court were crowded, and as luck would have it, both parties ended up queuing for a table together. Joanne wiped down the chair before sitting down. Do you think she will make a decision today or... Oh, she'll definitely make a decision today, one way or another. The question is whether you will be happy with her decision. Do you understand that she can prescribe counseling? God, I hope so. At the other end of the cafe, Bill looked at his lawyer. God, I hope not. What will this give? How is her husband? Oh, forget it. We've already discussed this 100 times. So, something that won't make me sick? I always choose a good steak, but I'm used to it. How about a club sandwich? I think this will be enough. Okay, you are an expert. Let there be a club sandwich. A 10-year marriage, especially in this day and age, is no joke. And yet here we are. Sometimes people just grow apart. Irreconcilable differences now cover a multitude of sins. Every day in this courtroom, one can feel the sadness of so many couples having their hopes dashed. Mrs. Ickett believes that this marriage can still be saved. The judge took a sip of water and looked at both of them sadly. I studied everything, all these complicated circumstances, but I came to one conclusion. Just like in the case of the Humpty Dumpty egg, nothing can put this marriage back together. Divorce granted. Both Eileen and Jeanette came over to hug Bill. Come on, boss, Eileen said. I have tickets, said Jeanette, and the car is already packed. We have 3 hours before the ship departs. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one.